Hey everyone, this is Kenny Coins, and it's been a tough month. Whew. It's been a tough month, man. 30 days, $5 trillion down in the market. Man, so a lot of things are down. And we gotta ask Carrie, are you seeing buying opportunities in
I
these
am.
charts?
I
You know what
am
I
by
mean?
a thread. I can show those in a moment. I mean, we are right at the edge. We are testing long-term trend support, and if we take it out, then I do think there's a very good chance we'll enter a bear market that could play out into later year, similar to what we saw from late 21 into late 22. And I could show that in the S&P 500 chart here in a moment if you like.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look.
All
Definitely.
right, let's go ahead and present. There we go. Present, share my screen. I'm forgetting how we do this. There it is. There we are. All right. Can you see this? Of course you can. So this is the S&P 500. This is a weekly chart. Goes back 5, 6 years. I can walk us through. We had the big sell-off from the high the week of February 18th. We broke this horizontal channel bottom. This is a 3-month structure. That oftentimes is a long-term sell signal, but I was of the opinion not so fast because if you go back to the October 22 low, this is the bear market I was talking about. Lower lows, lower high sequence played out for the better part of the year before we put out the October 22 low. And coming off that low, we've been trading up ever since. And by one measure anyway, and there's lots of different ways to measure trend, of course. You can use moving averages and speed lines. In fact, I'm going to show a speed line in a moment. But 2-year bull trend in the S&P 500 index remains intact above 54.74. We came close to testing that this week. And from here, the 58.07 is likely over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We could fill this wedge out for a month before the market tipped its hand in the respective direction. I do think the likelihood is that we will rally back up to 58.07. And while we might back away from it, if we close above it, and that is the likelier outcome because this is a 2-year structure, this is a 2-month, 3-month structure. Closing back above 58.07.83, sorry, that's the wrong chart, would indicate continued recovery to this 5-year channel top at 64.40. So 58.07 is a big pivot point. If we can close back above this in the next few weeks, it tells me the low is in, and we're likely to see new highs within a couple of months and onto the 64.40 area within about 3 to 5 months. This is a big resistance area that could contain annual highs if or when tested. Now, this chart that I showed a moment ago, here's one of the quandaries I find myself in because I do like to rectify what's going on in the S&P 500 with what's going on in the Nasdaq 100, which is a big element when you take into account Apple and Nvidia and Tesla. 54.75 long-term support for the S&P. But if I go, I'm going to use the triple Q in this situation, and the Nasdaq 100 is going to look absolutely identical to this. But the triple Q is something that we put out every day, and this is our 2-year channel support in the triple Q is still well below the market. This is still about a 7% drop from present price levels, 437 if I'm rounding up. Whereas if I go back to the S&P 500, we're just a few percentage points away. So how do you rectify that? I throw in the S&P 500, and I don't mean to confuse everybody, but I've used speed line analysis for years, and this is a rising 1/3 speed line at 53.06. So the way I'm presenting this, so that you've got kind of better correlation between the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100, is I'm recommending clients buy 54.75 roughly, and this is a long-term play. This could be day traders, 3 to 5 day swing traders, 3 to 5 week swing traders back to 58.07, and 3 to 5 month position traders back to what I showed here earlier at 64.40. But if we close below 54.75 in the S&P 500 this week, I don't see that as necessarily a big sell signal. I see it as an indication of 53.06. And this speed line could also contain longer term buying pressures. So, bottom line, I'm bullish into the third quarter above 54.75, and I turn bearish into the third quarter as far as the S&P 500 is concerned below 53.06. It's about as simple as that. And if I go back to the triple Q, I'll kind of finish out there. 471.47. This is an 8-month channel bottom in the triple Q. And if we close below 471.47 this week in the triple Q, we have several more weeks where we could fall to 437 roughly. But this is a big area. This is a big test in the triple Q, and I can move around and show you how, for instance, Nvidia. Do I have that here? I'm quite sure. Yes, Nvidia tested its same exact channel structure that I showed you here in the triple Q. I'm going to go back to Nvidia, and this is something that you and I, Kenny, have been talking about now for weeks. That this 107, it was 105 when you and I first started talking about it. It's 107.98 this week. We came off of this support level nicely over the last couple of weeks. This is our base of support in Nvidia. It's very similar to what we just saw in the triple Q, the Nasdaq 100, and above which I am anticipating the 138.60 channel top over the next 3 to 5 weeks. This channel top actually held the highs nicely in February, as you might recall. At that time, I was anticipating the 107 channel bottom. So now just the opposite. We've tested support, and we should rally into the upper 130s over the next 3 to 5 weeks. If we close below 107.98, we've got a range here. We've got this channel bottom as well at 104.93. So if you really want to be safe on playing the short side of Nvidia as we move into April, May trade, that would come with a weekly settlement below 104.93. And then I would expect this 2-year channel bottom at 76.89 within a couple of months. That could be a 3 to 5 week collapse, or it could take the better part of 2 months. But until then, I'll
I
just go back
think
to this chart. Go ahead.
with Nvidia, I think it's probably going to close below 104 next week and head towards the $80-$70 range. I'm just looking at the S&P and the Nasdaq and the economy conditions, and just overall, I think it's not going to be Nvidia's fault. It's not because fundamental or technical. I think it's just the economy condition and the overall market is just not good right now, which will push it down below
I would
104.
agree with you, especially if the triple Q closes below the same exact channel
Yeah,
structure it finds at 471.47. Then I think the index itself is sort of kind of leading the charge, so to speak, on everything. We
yeah.
had the sell signal a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, if the triple
I'm
Q
just
closes below
telling,
47,
yeah, I'm just
yeah,
telling everybody
another.
to be careful. Just look at the overall market. We had a really rough 30 days. Um, it looks like a good buying opportunity. I'm just saying, just look at the overall market. That could just push Nvidia down to territories that it was probably doesn't even need to be there, making it undervalued
Well, once again, we've
extremely.
got what is it, April 4th or April 2nd, which is the next round of tariff hikes supposedly
Yeah,
against both Mexico and Canada. Everybody's on eggshells right now. Are we really going to do that? And if so, I think it will have that negative impact for sure. If we hold off and there's some sort of a breakthrough, then I could see Nvidia rallying up to 138.60 pretty quickly, where we could top
yeah,
out then through April. Apple too, very similar structure. Apple had this. We tested long-term resistance back in December, and we are now testing channel support. So I've been telling subscribers, I'll go back to this chart here, the first one, which is to say, when we tested the 264.91 5-year channel top in Apple, I'd mentioned how the low 180s should be considered attainable, not necessarily expected, but with respect to channel dynamics, this area in reach. Now, it is expected by the end of May or sooner if we close in Apple today. This is the end of the week, weekly chart below 1010 to 1051. 21051 is a convergence of two channel structures. From here, from 21051, we can round up back to 264.91 over the next several months, 3 to 5 months. But if we close today below 21051, forget about it. With the present volatility, this could be a 3 to 5 week move. It could also take 2 to 3 months, but this 180.01 would be expected if we close this week below 210.51. So you've got 264.91 long-term ceiling, 180.01 long-term floor. And inside that, you've got this midterm pivot point at 210.51. As long as we can continue closing above this structure, we can round back up into the 260s over the next 3 to 5 months. Tesla, threw off. Now, Tesla tested a target. We had this as a 3 to 5 week objective going back. I can go back to the actual sell signal was below this former channel top. That was 4 weeks ago. And our objective was the 256.44 2-year channel top. This comes off that January 23 low, high. And here we are at 256.44 this week. We actually, after bottoming out last week at this and bouncing modestly into Friday afternoon of last week, we then opened below 256.44. And so assuming we close today in Tesla below 256.44, and I think there's a very good chance of that we are now in a new sell signal. And that's what we've been telling subscribers. By the way, Tesla we show for free on our YouTube channel at Wicked Stocks. The mid 150s, I think likely over the next month or two. This 153.59 to 159.69 area, this is your backstop long term. Tesla can bottom out here over the next month or two through the rest of the year, consolidate, and then still retain this sort of sparkle of the fabulous speculative instrument that it's been now for the last 4 or 5 years. But I venture to say that if Tesla closes below 153.59, it will probably fade into oblivion over the coming year or two as the sort of hot stock to trade. That's just my feeling about it. But I do see the 150s likely for Tesla if we close this week below 256.44. Do you have anything to add about Tesla?
I personally think Tesla is about to see $200. I just think things are not going well. Tesla gets a lot of their parts from a lot of the countries that we're opposing tariffs on, and they're opposing tariffs on us. So their cars are about to get a little bit more expensive. So I think it's rearing a lot of people and causing a sell signal. So I think it's $200 is a number to watch. 159 is a number to buy.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. I've got Google I want to show. I'm showing some of the big name stocks because they're just moving right now. I showed earlier how
Opportunity.
Nvidia is testing its 8-month channel bottom. You've got the triple Q testing its 8-month channel bottom, and you've got Google approaching at least its 8-month channel bottom at 161.54. Google, no surprise, looked very similar to the Nasdaq 100 chart. You've got you've got an 8-month formation and you've got a 2-year formation. And with Google, you've got an 8-month formation at 161.54, solid area to buy on weakness. From here, you can see how we've got these 3 to 5 month rallies that play out. Now, I don't know if it'll happen again in like kind. Odds are it wouldn't exactly happen like this, but if there's anything to do in Google right now, Alphabet rather, it's buying 161.54 and holding out potentially for the 210s, 220s as we continue into later year. But if we close below 161.54 this week, rising a little bit every week, then we enter another kind of a near-term sell signal only, another 10% down in Alphabet to 143.29. This is a significant zone of support, may contain selling through the rest of the year. If we close below 143.29 in Alphabet, the entire, I think, stock market, that is to say, the triple Q enters a longer term bear market into later year. Now, if the triple Q takes out 437 roughly, I'm really looking for this long term channel bottom at 355. This is kind of a 3 to 5 month play. And you can make the same case for Google. If Google takes out in the months ahead 143.29, then we're looking for this, 4-year structure that is well below the market at 125. So anyway, Zillow. I'll leave this chart. There's another page I can look at too, but I just wanted to show Zillow, a housing stock essentially, even though it's an online database. We had a buy signal back in November, got a 20% pop. This is a good spec trade stock. And we kept topping out, and now we're back below this channel bottom, and we're also in Zillow below this channel structure at 70.91. So if we close and we're trading, where are we trading last? We are trading, where are we? Jeez. We are trading 70.04. So we're below 70.91 right now. And if we close this week, Friday, below 70.91, we enter a meaningful sell signal. Two sell signals, really, by closing back below this long-term channel top at 72.21, which we closed above back in November, and by closing below this newly formed channel at 70.91. That sets up 54.19. So this is a pretty decent short play, or it's at least an indication that if you're long Zillow, you probably want to get out because you got another 20% to the downside over the next couple of months, closing below
Yeah,
70.91, 54.19 likely.
I'm shorting Zillow right now. I've been doing it since $83. So
Mm, nice.
I think it's gonna head towards the $60 range. So I
Sure.
definitely agree with the $54.
Hmm. Very good. I'm going to move on to another set of charts that I have here. These are some of the stocks that you'd mentioned. We haven't been on in a while, but you've got Broadcom. Broadcom has tested its, and this is a channel that goes back to May of 23, so it's almost a 2-year channel, almost. In a few months, it would be. So, it's about a 20-month, 21-month channel structure, 186.16. We've tested it this week. It also lines up with this former double top area in the mid 180s, 185.16. So this is your area to buy Broadcom. I don't see this market really taking off to the upside unless we can close above the 223.52 formation. Next week, that drops to 219.80. Then it drops to 216.07. So it's dropping about 4 points a week. We could fill this wedge out well into April activity. And then the likely outcome, because this is such a long term channel structure, is that we will eventually close above this 223.52. And then we should reach this channel top that is presently in the 270s and climbing. So that's the big picture. Holding above the mid 180s, we can rally into the 280s, 290s, low 300 region later this year. But the indication for that comes with a settlement above 223.52. Now, if in Broadcom we were to fall apart and settle below, let's just call it 185.16, then we continue south really to 128.50. You can see this kind of head and shoulders possibility that if we break 185.16, we fall all the way back to this old consolidation low of 128.50 before we could then fill this area out for, I don't know, several months. You had wanted to look at, and I'm not really, I don't follow this stock very closely, QRVO.
Yes, I
Um,
wanted to take a look at it. It was a recommendation by somebody. Some
I
one
see,
of the
we had a big sell signal back in November in this stock when we closed below this channel bottom. And you had obviously the big sell off, and you had this kind of a uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, and that was violated back in late October when we closed below 95.95. And I do think that this stock still wants to fall into what I would call the mid 50s over the coming weeks, over the next few months. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about this one. You've got you've got this A, B, C pattern that I drew out here. A minus B, the distance here. If you take 5/8 of that, a Fibonacci number, and then subtract it from C, that takes you down to 52.94. So this low to mid 50s, solid support. And I do think that this stock is probably going to test it over the next few months. And if we were to say, for instance, and I don't see that today, but close below 64.54, this low, we're probably just 3 to 5 weeks from testing the low to mid 50s. I do think holding below 95.95, we're looking at the low 50s. What else do we have? Coinbase, sell signal. And this is a structure, once again, that goes back a full year plus, actually more like 18 months. If Coinbase does close today below 195.82, and it's likely, I see the mid 110s as a likely objective. There's just not much holding this stock together. This is the only channel you can construct. How should I say this? This is the last channel you can construct off of this low area from January of 23. And because of that, I do see the mid 110s as likely over the next few months. And from here, yeah, we can bottom out. But I do think the wind has been sucked out of the sails, so to speak, on this one. If we
like
close
like
below
I
195,
like
what's
I
that?
said last time, about Coinbase. I've been in Coinbase for so long. I'm telling you guys will see 114, 116. I promise you. When
Yeah.
we did Bitcoin, it's just It's just part of the pattern. It really is. You look at a stock long enough, you can kind of tell after a while where it's going. Bitcoin is not doing well right now, so there's no doubt about that. Coinbase is headed to 115, 116.
hmm As far as Bitcoin goes, this is more of an update. You and I covered this a week ago or a week and a half ago. We're above this area right now. We certainly broke it this week, but we came back nicely late in the week. So there's certainly a frenzy of buying the last few days. If we close today below this rising one-third speed line at 81,859, and we're trading 83,700 last. So at this moment, with about 20 minutes into the trading day, it doesn't look like it. But if we do close back below not only 81,859, but back above this critical 5-year channel top at 83,257, then I see likely, and you and I had talked about this last week, I see at least 68,964, this old high back in November. And what I really think is possible with Bitcoin is just continued deterioration back to what is now 48,722. This is a rising two-thirds speed line. Now, yeah, I think this is like a head and shoulders top. And so when you get back to the top of the shoulder, you're going to bounce nicely, bounce from the upper 60,000s back into the low 80,000s. We could do that for a month or two, but I do think that the odds favor a settlement below 81,859. I'm not interested in buying Bitcoin until later in the year when we may actually ease back into what is now 48,722. But if we can close today, and we've yet to actually close below this 5-year channel top after closing above it back in November. So this has been a zone to buy into, and I've been recommending as much. As long as we don't close below 81,859, you can stay long Bitcoin, anticipating still this longer term objective well above the market at 122,000, which looks out of reach right now. But over the next 3 to 5 months, who knows? If I were to continue on, this is kind of a zoomed in look at what our next buy signal would be on Bitcoin. I mean, I just showed you that 81,000, 83,000 area. I don't show it on this chart because I'm zooming in. But if we close above that 83,000 area, this is our next trouble spot. 90,713, 94,241, former channel bottom that we closed below 3 weeks ago. And this newly formed near-term channel top that is based on the last few weeks lows. This area all comes together around 91,228 in about 2 weeks. And if we can close above it, then bullish continuation, meaningful bullish continuation, 2 to 3 month rally then, I think, to this 122,433. 122,000 is that AB count. So basically, I can show it again. I use these AB counts, these ABC counts, when you push to new highs, uncharted territory, unprecedented highs. You're beyond all the line studies. For instance, this channel top was sort of the last channel that you could really construct. And because of that, you're now sort of using these wave patterns. So it's basically taking the November 21 high of 68,964, and you're subtracting, the 22 low, roughly 15,599, and you're flipping that on its head. And so you're taking A minus B, that distance, you add it to A, and it's a 100% swing to the upside. And this is sort of waiting in the wings as a long-term resistance area and still a reachable target so long as we close this week above these convergent formations, the channel top at 83,257 and the speed line at 81,859. They're changing a little bit every week, but if we can close above them, we can hold on to this as a longer term objective attainable later in the year. Netflix, I want to jump into that real quick. Netflix posted a near term sell signal only when it closed last week below this well defined channel structure that this week is at 926.89. I do think that if we're unable to get above this structure, and we've tested it this week, this is a sell area near term, 3 to 5 week sell signal into the 780s roughly. You've got a combination channel bottom that stems off that May 22 low. You've got a 1/3 speed line in the same vicinity. I see this as a 3 to 5 week target that may well contain selling into later years. So I'm still bullish Netflix long term. It's just that near term, that is to say, through the month of April, control, we could have trouble. We could top out at 926.89 and fall into the 780s quite easily. If we can close this week, for instance, today above 926.89, that neutralizes that sell signal. And, I would expect probably something along the lines of, this channel top over the next, a month or two. And that takes us up into the, the 1100s, the very low 1100 area. Let's see. Let's see. Did we want to? You want to take a look at Skyworks? You'd mentioned that to me as well.
Yeah, I did. The time I sent it to you, it was at a better position, but now it's just like took a massive dip below.
Yeah, I think we were, it's just about 2 weeks ago. So I think we were
Yeah,
around 72 and now we're at 68. But
dang.
once again, you've got this settlement back in February below this channel bottom at
Yeah,
82.38. I see this as a ceiling, a sellable ceiling, below
yeah,
which the low 60s are likely. And I'll just show this last chart here. You've got these long-term wave counts that says, as long as we're below 82.38 in Skyworks, we should ease back into really the mid 50s to low 60s. You've got all kinds of support going on here. This is kind of a long-term head and shoulders, the neckline being 54.50 roughly. So we could slip into this zone over the next few weeks, and it actually may contain selling into later year as we then carve out the right side of this long-term head and shoulders, which is not a bullish development for this stock. I'll mention. So anyway, I don't know if you wanted to, what else you wanted to talk about. I'm trying
no,
to think.
that's
Yeah.
really it for me, man. I think everybody should pay attention to what's going on around the market and make their best decision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like there's still a little bit more down to go. I don't feel like we have really truly bottomed out because of everything that's going to happen in April.
Mm-hmm.
So, enter with cautious, make sure you do your due diligence and, you know, read the charts. Don't
Yeah. If
just
you buy
go
the
based.
market, practice risk management for sure.
Yep.
Um, stop
Don't put too
losses,
much.
always a
Don't
stop
put too
loss. Yeah.
much. But if you're shorting,
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Don't put too much. A lot of the in this type of market, you'll see that 104 hit and it'll probably jump up to like 110, 111 real quick, definitely like Nvidia, because people
Mm-hmm.
do see that as a buying opportunity. So
Sure.
besides that, man, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks, Carrie, for coming out. I really appreciate it. And see you guys next week. Peace.
Thank you, Kenny.